Hi, LHMPR Radio. This is Chris Lewington. I'm a singer-songwriter from Northwest Kent area of UK. It's an area of the UK that has produced some great musicians in the past, including Rolling Stones, Mick and Keith. They're from Dartford, just up the road from me. I've been a musician most of my life. I've been making music since the 1980s. My first love was actually not pop or rock, but movie themes. My earliest musical heroes were people like Ennio Morricone, John Barry. Then singer-songwriters like Paul Simon and the Beatles became big influences and probably still are to this day. I started my first band, The Silence, in the 1980s. I was living in London by then and released singles, A Car in Denmark and The Hangman's Beautiful Daughter. Silence also featured alongside the likes of Julian Cope on the cult compilation A Splash of Colour that followed the early 80s psychedelic revival.
Radio, radio, yeah, we're crossing every border. Radio, radio.
By the mid-80s I'd formed the Bicycle Thieves, which had a similar style to R.E.M. and Lloyd Cole. With the Bicycle Thieves I penned singles Ghost Dance and Louise, both of which received significant airplay on Radio 1. Louise would actually win the 1989 TDK Songwriter Award, and we gigged extensively in England, also in France. Another single, Waterfront, received a lot of airplay and some noticed on the UK charts. And the band also recorded with famous producer Tony Visconti during this period.
Taking on the new world order, like a friend in the night. Finished in a German fight. Radio, radio.
In the early 90s, I returned to my singer-songwriter roots, and I started a new project called The Famous Blue Raincoats, a more folky acoustic style that performed in smaller sized venues in and around London. And there's a compilation album of all those songs that are available on all the streaming sites, Spotify, etc. Music then took a bit of a backseat for a while, but in 2018 I set aside time to finally release my first official full-length solo album. I guess technology advanced to that point. You could make decent recordings released just using a laptop and recording in your own home. So the title of the album, Landwell's Road, it was named after the street where the album was recorded. It's a sort of homage to the Beatles' Abbey Road, if you will. A retro amalgam of stylistic sounds, kind of reflects my love of all the classic artists such as the Beatles, Love, Jefferson Airplane, Scott Walker, and of course contemporary people that I really love like Bon Iver, Calexico, First Aid Kit. The album Riverside was released on the 10th of August 2020. Like Landwell's Road, the album's entirely self-written, played and produced. This time there was perhaps a more pastoral feel to the album. Now that I had moved to the countryside by the River Darren, there's a very English feel to much of the record, including songs about pre-Raphaelites and a setting of a Rupert Brooks poem. There is also more of a 70s singer-songwriter sound to many of the tracks.
Blue skies, fields of gold. Seems the world went on forever.
So that brings us bang up to date, 2022. My new album is Starfish Memories. It's released in August. There's 11 tracks on there. There's songs about the world we live in, the war in Ukraine, COVID, COP26. There's also songs about more personal relationships. There's strong ballads, great rockers, powerful hooks, sing-along choruses. What more could you want in an album? So go check it out. I'm Chris Lewington. You can find me on Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music, and all the streaming sites.
Shine a light, shine a light, shine a light, shine